Yes, folks, hello, welcome once again to MoDXtra Games and Collectibles. It's time for another G.I. Joe Classified Series news update. At this point, I normally say MoDXtra, where you get some of the G.I. Joe news some of the time when I get around to it, but I'm actually being quite timely today because just earlier this afternoon, we had a G.I. Joe Classified Series fan stream over on the Hasbro Pulse YouTube channel. We had some pre-orders open up, we got some pre-orders announced for next week, we had some name-only reveals, we had a render reveal, and a little teaser. So lots to talk about, lots to cover. Let's get into it and take a look what was going on. And I'm going to get straight into it and just kind of dash through, really, to be honest, the pre-orders, because they're already live, most of these, except for the one that's happening next week. First up was the retro wave. So the digital renders for these dropped through the G.I. Joe socials last week. I even speculated saying I think they're going to turn up on the live stream next week, and lo and behold, here they are, available for pre-order right now, where, you know, all good toys are sold, etc., etc. So that's the Retro Wild Bill, that's the Retro Techno Viper, and the Retro Grunt. They did have an in-hand demonstration. Got to be honest, the in-hand demonstration of these three in particular didn't switch me on a great deal, because I've already got a Techno Viper, I've already seen that Grunt book, and you know there are people out there with Wild Bill in hand from the Dragonflies. However, you know, they're going through the marketing routine there. I'm not going to spend a lot of time discussing these because I talked about them at length in a video just a couple of days ago when I was looking at the digital renders. But if you head to your favourite store, you should find them for pre-order right now. Red Dog and Taurus have also gone up for pre-order tonight. We've known about these for some time. We've had the whole routine, you know, the whole cadence of a name-only reveal and a digital render reveal and, you know, in-hand reveals and stuff. So we're all across this. Many of us were sat in wait to complete our Renegades lineup. So this has gone up for pre-order. And same again, general mainline release. Go where all good toys are sold. Some places are already getting them in hand. You know, my man Shark Eyes did a review, didn't he, over in Australia. I think there's some knocking around in the East, and there's rumours that our friendly local importer here in the UK might be getting some soon, so that'll be fun. But yeah, for the rest of us scutters, on pre-order now. And then Destro and his Despoiler have gone up for pre-order today. Not an exclusive, not a convention figure. You know, there was lots of speculation last week around that type of thing. No, just banged up for pre-order. Boof, there you go. Coming in at $110. I was speculating about the price the other day. Although a little note on the price, actually, for those who may be interested. So it's $110 over in the United States. It's 105 quid here in the UK, which is the equivalent of $140 US. Where's that, you know, where's that extra... Where's that coming from? You know what I mean? It's always been like this. My man Connor over at Fuller's Figures has always talked about this weird like-for-like pricing effect and what it means, but I'll be seriously considering it. I haven't actually put the pre-order in yet, would you believe? I've not leapt on it, mostly because of kind of budgetary considerations, but it does look freaking good. They had an in-hand demo. There's quite a few promo pictures, you know, available to retailers and stuff, but I just plucked this one out because it just really represents the figure super well. Lenny was talking about, you know, a lot of the stuff we've already clocked on the digital render: the 3D shield, the soft goods cape, the scimitar and stuff. Did point out a couple of fun bits. On the underside of the shield, there's a couple of laser blasters there, which is kind of fun. He said all the articulation was still in place, you know, butterfly joints, etc., etc. He is just looking like a really banging figure, you know, with the big old claymore and everything. He was also showing off the the missiles are all removable, and the heads-up display inside the cockpit of the Despoiler. Fun little quirky Easter egg in there. Got a little picture of the Baroness, like on a communicator screen, which I thought was kind of nice. So, yeah, I know lots of folks were really loving what they were seeing with the digital render last week. I think they'll love it even more. So, you know, seeing these promo photos and the in-hand reveal on the stream earlier, and it's up for pre-order. So, you know, get to your favourite retailer. And then finally, the Ramp Rats that were... This was a leak, an accidental leak a few weeks back now with the two Ramp Rat figures and the maintenance storage cratey thing. And this is going up for pre-order. This is, checks notes, a Pulse exclusive going up on the 9th of April. So keep your eyes out for that if this is a set that you're eager to get your hands on. So that was the pre-orders, and that was all the stuff that we knew about already. Let's now take a look at the name-only reveals that they gave us. These are pretty juicy, in my humble opinion. And the first one out of the gate was the Toxo Viper version 1. I know there's folks out there, I've seen it mentioned, you know, whenever the wish lists are floating around at the close of a year or at the beginning of a year and all that kind of stuff. Or someone posts a YouTube post that says, what are you eager to happen? Toxo Vipers come up. They're just a really kind of unique character, aren't they? My man Eric, Charlotte Prime was chatting in, one of my Joe Bros chatting in the Frontline Discord that we both belong to, saying, you know, if these are on the way, then Eco Warriors could be coming down the line. It really brings hope to weirdos like me who, you know, would like to see characters like Cesspool make their way into the classified line, and weirdos like me who've always got their eye out on, you know, distinctively coloured characters with, you know, turquoisey, blue, green, purple, red uniforms and stuff with massive weird helmets and sludge guns. I mean, come on, what's not to like? Then we had Mistress Armada added to the list. Lenny said in the stream that he felt like she was an underutilized character. I saw a few folks in the chat going, who? What who's she? Mistress Armada's from the Devil's Due comic book run. She was Destro's kind of right-hand lady, but then kind of hooked up with his son Alexander, but she's, you know, she's in the Iron Grenadier space essentially, so they're continuing to build out the Iron Grenadier roster. Kind of surprised that they're putting Mistress Armada out before a Voltar, but as many regulars around these parts will know, huge advocate for, you know, expanding the sort of gender diversity of the line, so great to see another female character coming along. Also a massive advocate for the mining the comic book laws, you know, the various continuities for inspiration for the G.I. Joe classified line as well. They've kind of dug into Devil's Due a couple of times now, you know, for characters, which is nice to see. Or sort of later comic book lines for characters sitting outside of your kind of core body of Larry Hama, Real American Hero type stuff. So she's ticking a couple of boxes for me on that front. Obviously, we'll see what the figure looks like when it comes along in 3D plastic, but an encouraging one for the line nonetheless, particularly for the comic book fans. Then they named Psych-Out, although they did go on to say, BMAT was saying that not a mainline release, not a mainline Psych-Out. So if I was a betting man, Psych-Out had a Night Force edition, didn't he? So if I was a betting man, I wonder if it's going to be the Night Force edition. And Night Force in the US is it Walmart? One of my North American friends let me know. I think it's Walmart off the top of my head. Our exclusives run a little differently over here in the UK. So probably the Night Force version, and then we'll see the mainline edition retro card backed later on or something. You know, I can see it panning out that way, you know. Nonetheless, another great kind of weird and wonderful sci-fi character. One for the hardcore kind of central G.I. Joe fans. I mentioned before about like the Real American Hero comics. He was knocking around in the Real American Hero comics from around from the 60s, around the issues in the 60s-ish. So, you know, he's a long-standing guy on the roster there. Got fun kind of gear to play around with, and a nice addition to kind of line up with your dial tones and your mainframes on the Joe side of the shelf. So, yeah, another one I'm pretty pleased to see getting added to the line. And then they mentioned a new Duke coming. They said he was going to be revealed at Yojo June. And they didn't give us a great deal of information other than to say that he was quite rugged and he was on a mission and possibly not what we would expect, which is curious. I've just thrown a few best guesses up on the screen there, but it's anybody's bet really in the grand scheme of things. I did wonder about the Skybound comic version. You know, there is in his own title in particular, he was, you know, he's often stubbly or bearded. This scene in particular from issue 1, where he's kind of got covert gear on. He's already, you know, he's got a black polo neck and a black beanie with his scruffy, rugged hair. He's infiltrating Mars Enterprises, doing some research on whether they've got a transformer or not, although he didn't know or would know it was a transformer at that point. So maybe something interesting like that is the on a mission idea. I did wonder, though, about an Arctic get-up. Obviously, there's a kind of an Arctic sub-theme going on this year to to kind of line up with the HasLab release, of course. And they've got to get some use out of that Flint book, even if it is the top half, maybe, you know, just the big Parker jacket with a Duke head and Duke legs, perhaps. Or, you know, let's go right off the wall. Is now the time for Star Brigade? Is that the mission he's on? Is he looking a bit rugged because he's been, you know, toileting in his own spacesuits and been unable to shave for a couple of days? I don't know. So get your best guesses in the comments down below, folks. I think it's going to be Skybound. I would like it to be Skybound. I'd like that to be a space that they lean into, to have figures coming out at the same time as there's other media, other G.I. Joe media coming out. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I don't know why it's not happened yet in any case, you know. And if that is the case, then it opens up the door to things like a G.I. Joe edition Baroness, you know, the Chameleon, the new version of Chameleon, that kind of stuff. I don't know. Anyway, let me know your guesses in the comments down below. Then they slipped us this cheeky little digital render. The Ninja Force Scarlet and Chebang. We knew Chebang was on the way. He'd been on the name-only list for a while, and we also had been told that he was part of a 2-pack, so there had been speculation as to who he might appear with. In fact, again, just to, you know, pull a Viper Island on you all, I think I did in fact say that if I was a betting man, it would be Scarlet. Check me out, Mr. Accurate Prediction Man. Or to be more accurate, wildly lucky guess man. But look at this! This looks awesome, doesn't it? Brilliant. I'm very, very pleased to see this. I'm a fan of the Ninja Force Scarlet get-up. Just, it appeals to the 90s comic book reader in me, you know, like kind of the extreme 90s look and feel kind of stuff. But the kind of classifiedization interpretation of these looks really, really interesting. The least of which is this continued theme in the kind of ninja character area of the masks. We got like the white tiger there for Chebang, and we've got this sort of horned demon thing for Scarlet, which just great. You know, anything that gives you options and like opens up the world of possibility for how you might want to display your figures. If you're a photographer, how you might take pictures with them. I'm all for. While I'm zoomed in up here, actually, the Scarlet head sculpt looks really good as well. I love the kind of swooshy hair. Definitely leaning into that sort of 90s comic book thing, you know, where the female hair was always just crazy and big. They've got it tied back, but still it's there, you know, the little swooshy bits going on. Really loving that. But I think Chebang's head sculpt looks pretty interesting as well. Really, really interesting. I'm not sure. That must be a head swap, the white tiger there. We can clearly see that it's a head swap for Scarlet, but it must be a head swap on the Chebang side as well. Lots of other stuff to like, though. You know, we've got this really super cool sword. Lenny was talking about Scarlet's big claws, but they've also included some of the smaller claws that we've seen before, which obviously ties into that kind of white tiger theme there. Throwing knives. Both of them have got closed fist and grippy hand swaps in there. This fun little thing, whatever it is, I know some of you folks are a bit more kind of knowledgeable about Eastern weaponry, kind of classical medieval Eastern weaponry, so educate me. And then these, I suspect, are a reuse from the Slice and Dice set. I think the Slice and Dice had a set of that. Although pleased to see with these that there's a paint application on the handles. Slice and Dice didn't have a paint application. And that would be my main concern, actually, would be if some of the weaponry is just kind of coming across a bit plastic. Like I'm hoping this sword, for example, has a decent paint application on the blade and it's not that kind of weird grey plastic, and that these maybe have a decent paint application on them rather than that, again, that weird plastic that we saw on the Slice and Dice one. But overall, yeah, what a fun looking 2-pack. Just really comes together well. It got the bright colours in there too, which is obviously, you know, part of that whole Ninja Force experience. Whether when we see Chebang in 3D plastic form, it is a little bit toned down like they've done with Ninja Force Zartan is yet to be seen. But overall, yeah, I'm buying what they're selling here. Bastards, they get me every time. And then to wrap things up, they gave us this, a physical tease, kind of borrowing from the Marvel Legends approach when they do their streams and they bring out a little piece and ask people to put their guesses. And it looks like some sort of crown, maybe, or an armband for someone with a large bicep or something. It's clearly got the cobra symbol on the front, and then that sort of serpenty motif, those couple of snake heads on there. Seen a lot of speculation around, like the mind control headbands from the Mass Device episodes, but it doesn't look like they're much more kind of sci-fi with lights on and stuff. But could it be Globulus related? And it's his crown. Again, he didn't wear a crown in the cartoon, but I could see maybe a serpent themed thing around his bicep there. I was thinking about Baroness. I feel like there was a comic book story arc where she stepped up and she took control of Cobra for a little bit because something had happened to Cobra Commander and Destro, and she wore a cloak and like a tiara type thing. Am I making that up in my head? Anyone who's got better recall of that type of thing, let me know. But I feel like I'm making it up in my head. Otherwise, it's anybody's guess, really. I think the leading speculation is around Globulus, but I'm not sure I could feel it. There was a lot of hopeful, wishful thinking around, is it the hooded Coco with a crown? But I think, which it could well be, but I think Hooded Coco is just one of those ones that just, the Hooded Cobra Commander is just one of those that's just always going to be just there in the community speculation around all sorts of things, isn't it? Because it's such a wanted figure. So I'll open the floor. Let me know your guesses in the comments down below. I just can't shake the feeling like it's, there's something there tickling at the back. My old man filing cabinet memory is just not opening the drawer and pulling it out at this moment in time, but maybe it'll occur to me down the line. But interesting nonetheless. So there you go. That was everything that was on the fan stream. What I'll do now, just very quickly, is just kind of do a bit of a summary of the fan stream plus other stuff we know to kind of get a bit of a lay of the land as it stands at the minute. I always worry when I do these bits because last time I did one of these like little summaries, I missed tons of stuff. I've got to get better at filing things on my computer when I'm, when I'm in the sort of built-up archive of things that I've got. However, as far as I'm aware, the digital render lay of the land is this pair really. You've got the Arctic 3-pack over there on the far side of the screen, and then the new Scarlet and Chebang reveal that has happened today. On the name-only side of things, the list now stands as Iceberg, Deep Six, the Toxo Viper, Psychout, and Mistress Armada, so with those 3 additions. Then we've got the kind of teasy stuff, or sort of informally revealed. Although I say that, New Duke should be on the name-only list, really, because that's when they brought him up during the fan stream. So there you go, I made a mistake. But you've got the New Duke, then you've got the Varmin and Snake Eyes, the green colour scheme Snake Eyes, and the Stealth Viper and Stealth Pod that was in the cabinet at New York Toy Fair that hasn't been formally kind of put out there yet. And then this little crown piece, armbandy piece thing that we've seen today. And that's it, folks. Quite a contained sort of render situation, quite a contained short name-only list, and just a couple, a little handful of things teased. So, in addition to that, sort of that's actively up for pre-order, either previously or today, things are ticking over quite nicely. BMAC did make several references to Yo-Yo June, in time for Yo-Yo June, stuff like that. It said digital renders will come out in time for Yo-Yo June, keep an eye on the socials, that type of thing. So I think we'll probably see a similar pattern that we've seen this time around and previously this year, where the digital renders kind of get splurged out over the socials, the official G.I. Joe page, the Hasbro Pulse page, or maybe leaked out through the likes of Full Force, etc., etc. And then in a short window of time, it'll lead into the Yo-Yo June official reveal and the pre-order opening up. So the kind of rhythm of it's not too bad, he says, touching wood and believing that he's speaking probably far too soon. It seems to be working. I'd say what it did do to me today, though, was that having seen the digital renders last week and then the in-hand reveals this week, the sense of excitement for the fan stream was a bit diminished. And as the fan stream was going on, I was like, yeah, okay, well, I'm across this bit. I mean, don't get me wrong, I loved seeing the Destro and Despoiler, the real, but seeing the Techno Viper and Grunt and Wild Bill was of minimal interest to me. It wasn't until the name-only reveals kind of came along and then the digital render that it perked me up. So while it's a reasonable sort of rhythm, a reasonable cadence to it all, it does sort of suck a bit of the in the moment, like, of it all, which I've spoken about before, but I suspect they'll line up some surprises for Yojo June. But I mean, we're in April now, so there's only what if Yojo June has a week 1 kickoff in June, then we're only what 8 weeks away. I have a suspicion that what might be going on, and this is just speculative on my part, but at the point at which they start distributing promo images and stuff out to retailers for their preparations to go to market, particularly if their pre-orders are opening up on the day in which they're revealing them on a fan stream, they're dropping the renders early to get ahead of the stuff that leaks out with some sort of disclaimer attached to, or something like that, maybe. But in any case, I'll wrap it up there because I've been waffling on for ages. Thanks for watching, folks. As always, interested to hear your thoughts. Drop your comments in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching. If you found this enjoyable, do all the YouTube stuff, click buttons and subscribe up and, join the channel. Send me some money. Did you hear what I said about the despoiler before? $140 in equivalent money. I always feel like you're doing the money stuff. In any case, thanks for watching. Take it easy. Have yourselves a great day. Swing back around for another video sometime soon, folks, and I'll see you next time. All right? Ta-ra now.